Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Practical and Healing Applications of A Course in Miracles with me, Annarebeccaquinn. Thank you for joining this broadcast and checking this out. I am a Course in Miracles teacher, and that's what I do here on this podcast. I am teaching A Course in Miracles. I've been teaching A Course in Miracles for 40 years now. And I am completely in love with A Course in Miracles, even after 40 years. As a matter of fact, my appreciation for the power of A Course in Miracles just keeps deepening and deepening all the time, even though it's been 40 years. And I love A Course in Miracles because it means what it says and it does what it says. It's not called A Course in Miracles for nothing. So I have learned that the ideas of A Course in Miracles, these principles, have such a healing and transformative power over anything that it has, it works. It works. And that's why I love it. And that's why I still do it. And so on my Monday class, I let Spirit choose what section from A Course in Miracles that we go to, and then I read over it, and then I read it with you, and then see what comes through. My purpose always in my classes is that you would hear what A Course in Miracles is saying, that you would hear the ideas of A Course in Miracles. They're so beautiful and so profound that all I really would need to do as a good Course teacher is just literally let you hear the words. It's so beautiful and so powerful and so loving. And then so that you would hear what A Course in Miracles is saying, and then that we would think more deeply about that. What does that mean? What is it saying here? What did it just say? And that we would apply, that we would listen for how it's teaching us to apply these principles to our lives, to things that we are experiencing in our lives, that we might experience the miracles that come when you apply these loving principles, these universal principles, to whatever it is that you're going through right now that's not peaceful, and that you would experience the miraculous results of applying these principles to what you're going through, even if you don't fully understand or accept these principles. The Course in Miracles tells us that you don't have to believe or even understand or even welcome the truth for it to be true and for it to work if you use it. So I love that, because that means that even way before I really fully understand what these principles are saying, and even way before I even fully accepted them as true, if I use them in place of my own past learning around fear and sin and guilt and separation, then if I use these ideas, even if I don't fully understand or believe them or have accepted them, I still get the results as if I did fully believe them, which is what the Course in Miracles calls a miracle. A miracle is the result of having applied the principles that are loving and true and universal in place of what you learned in the past. And anytime that you do that, the Course in Miracles says the result is a miracle. So, all right. Thank you for being here. And as soon as I see that I'm on Facebook, then I'm going to make that go. So we'll just wait for that. All right. So guys, welcome and thank you for being here. And this is the section that I'm going to be reading from today. Here we go. And let's see if I can pull up our Facebook thing. There we are. Good. I'm going to turn down the volume here. And forgive me while I change the settings for my Facebook so that you guys can see me on Facebook. Okay, great. Now I'm live. Beautiful. And just want to do one more thing. Okay. All right, let me do one more thing. Thanks for being patient as I figure this out for myself. See if it works. All right. Okay, beautiful. When you can see me, let me know. If you guys on Facebook, when you can see me, let me know. And then we'll get started. All right. Beautiful. So this is where we're at today. This is what we're going to be reading from. There are many different editions of A Course in Miracles. And what I'm going to be reading to you from today is A Course in Miracles based on the original handwritten notes of Helen Schucman, complete and annotated edition. So this is the original edition, like the text, and then combined with footnotes from Robert Perry, and also a lot of additional material that Helen Schucman wrote and that came through Helen Schucman. And this is compiled by Robert Perry. Thank you, Robert Perry, for this. I'm so grateful for this. In this, the complete and annotated edition of A Course in Miracles, Robert Perry writes part of the introduction to this edition is what is A Course in Miracles, and then a subset of that is a section titled "What Does A Course in Miracles Teach?" And so that is what I want to read to you from. I want to read from that for you today, because I perceive that Robert Perry's summation of the teaching of A Course in Miracles is a fantastic summation of the teaching of A Course in Miracles. And Greg and I were talking earlier before class, where I was saying to him what I was going to be reading from tonight, and he was saying something like, "I wish that something like that had been around when my mom and dad were checking it out." And I told him I had the same thought. I wish that when my family members went and Googled, what is A Course in Miracles? I wish they had come across something like this particular summation of A Course in Miracles, the teaching. What does A Course in Miracles teach? You know, when you hear about A Course in Miracles and it spikes your curiosity, it makes sense that you would want to know, well, what does A Course in Miracles teach? What is it? What does it teach? So that is what I'm going to be reading from today. And all right. And you guys just let me know when you can see me, if you can see me and hear me. Let me know how it sounds, if there's anything I need to check out. So, all right. Internet gods, be you in charge. Gods of technology, helpful technological angels, be you in charge. And thank you. Okay. All right. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to start with, what does A Course in Miracles teach? What does A Course in Miracles teach? All right. Beautiful. Let me pull that up. All right. The teaching. What does A Course in Miracles teach? This is a great overview of the teaching. It says, A Course in Miracles offers a unique perspective on reality. The Course in Miracles offers a unique perspective on reality. And boy, is it unique. It's very unique. And also, A Course in Miracles offers a unique perspective on the human condition. Why are we like we are as humans on planet Earth right now? A Course in Miracles offers a very unique perspective on the human condition. And also, A Course in Miracles offers a unique perspective on the path to happiness. Where does happiness, what is happiness? Where does happiness really come from? Course in Miracles offers us a very unique perspective on that. Unique is an understatement when you hear the perspectives of A Course in Miracles. Sometimes there are some things I hear from A Course in Miracles that I've never heard anywhere else ever before. And I've been way around the spiritual, metaphysical world. And to this day, still, there are some things in A Course in Miracles, some of its basic tenets that I just still don't hear anywhere else. All right. So let me know, guys, if you can see me and hear me, because I don't see any comments. So you guys let me know. Let me know if you're out there and you can see and hear me. All right. Okay, good. Okay, so we're talking about what does the Course in Miracles teach? What is the teaching of A Course in Miracles? Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Demi. Thank you, thank you. All right, okay. Isn't that weird? It was like till just now, there was not a comment. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, Greg says loud. Too loud? Am I coming through too loud? I have a new speaker, so let me know. Okay, Greg, you said loud. Is it too loud? Okay, great. We can hear Bella. Oh, thank you, Demi. Okay. So, it says A Course in Miracles offers a very unique perspective on reality, the human condition, and the path to happiness. Okay. That's what A Course in Miracles offers. A very unique perspective that you won't hear anywhere else. And so what follows is an attempt to condense A Course in Miracles' grand symphony of ideas into a brief summary. So thank you, Robert Perry, to condense the grand symphony of the ideas of A Course in Miracles into a brief summary is in itself a miracle. And I'm so grateful that Robert Perry did this, because it's really helpful for people who are new to the Course or who are just exploring it, or people like us who love A Course in Miracles, love it. But when people are like, well, what does it teach? We're like, you know, so even us who've been in A Course in Miracles a long time, it's so helpful to hear someone put it into a brief and succinct summary, that we might be better able to do that ourselves when you meet somebody and they're like, well, what is A Course in Miracles? And so the more you understand about what A Course in Miracles is, what it teaches, the better able you are able to answer those questions when people are genuinely curious. They hear the things you say, they see the things, the miracles around you. They're going to be curious. They're going to say, well, what does it say? What does it teach? And this is a wonderful overview summation of that you can share with others. All right. So, or if you're just exploring it, this is a good overview for what it teaches. Now it says, the foundation for everything in A Course in Miracles, the foundation for this entire curriculum, this entire thought system here, the foundation of everything in A Course in Miracles is the Course in Miracles concept of an unconditionally loving God. Okay? That's the foundation. That's where it starts. And yes, that is a unique perspective, because where do you hear that besides maybe Buddhism or, something like that? Well, They don't talk about God, so maybe not even that. But its unique perspective on reality begins with the concept of an unconditionally loving God. So that's where it starts. That's the foundation of the teaching of A Course in Miracles. Not an angry God, not a judgmental God, not a God that plays favorites, not a God that doesn't know about you, not a God that's distant. It's an unconditionally loving God is the foundation of the teaching of A Course in Miracles. Unconditionally loving, meaning doesn't play favorites, loves everyone, every aspect of its creation unconditionally, equally unconditionally, right? And so that is the foundation of the teaching of A Course in Miracles. And that is definitely a unique perspective, right? Because is that what we hear about God from our other faith systems, our systems of belief? Is that what we hear about God? Is that what we learned about God? Not at all. It's a very unique perspective. Then it says, though God is genderless, hear that. A Course in Miracles describes God as being like the perfect Father, even though God is genderless. The Course in Miracles describes God as being like the perfect Father. What's a perfect father? A father who's purely loving, a father who's without the slightest trace of anger, and a father whose love is so perfect and pure that it is a love that is only expanded to infinity, is the way that A Course in Miracles describes God, like the perfect Father. Now, isn't that a lovely thought? Now, most people listening, including myself, did not have a perfect father. I mean, my father was wonderful, total miracle. I thank God for my biological father every day. But who among us have experienced an unconditionally loving father, and who among us have ever experienced hearing about God like the perfect Father who's purely loving, without the slightest trace of anger, and their love for us is only expanded to infinity, right? Okay, well, that's the basis of A Course in Miracles. Now it's going to talk to us about our relationship with this perfectly loving Father, Creator, God, and what the heck happened? Wait a minute, that's our Creator, that's our Father, and well, okay, then what happened? Demi says, did an original ACM collaborator pass last week? I'm not sure. I'll have to check it out. And Greg says, and doesn't change day to day. Yes, God is the perfect Father, which means God, as the Course describes God, purely loving, which means without the trace of anger. Can you imagine? Think about that. Think about experiencing a love from a parent, whether it be mother or father, that feels purely loving, which means without the slightest trace of anger. Well, that's how A Course in Miracles describes God. And that's the foundation of the teaching of A Course in Miracles. And so here's the story. Before time began, this loving Father, God, created us as its beloved children, and God poured out all of God's attributes, all of God's being into us and God's children, so that we would be exactly like God, egoless, limitless, and filled with an impartial, all-encompassing love. That is how our Creator created us, filled with an impartial, all-encompassing love. God created us like God. and God poured all of God's attributes into us. That's how we were created by God, says, of course, in Miracles. And then it says, and God created us without bodies. God created us without boundaries to wall us off from God. And so we thus, in this way, existed in boundless oneness with God and with each other. We were existing in that. God created us one with God, boundless, one with God, never walled off from God, where God pours all of God's attributes into us, creating us perfect, filling us with an impartial, all-encompassing love, creating us without any boundaries to wall us off from God. We thus existed in boundless oneness with God and with each other, and we were basking in a love from God that exceeds our current comprehension. That's what was going on before, dun, 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 the ego that we made, that we chose to worship, the false God that we made and then chose to worship over God. That's what was going on before the separation. That was what was going on and happening before we came up with that tiny mad idea of separation that has become the ego. You know, we were existing in boundless oneness with God in complete, pure love, no boundary, filled with an impartial, all-encompassing love. That's what was going on before that tiny mad idea crossed our mind that we forgot to laugh at. So that's what was going on, says the Course in Miracles. Now, that we were basking in love from God that exceeds our current comprehension. That's what was happening before the separation, before the fall, before all that that belief in separation, crazy mad idea crossed our mind that we forgot to laugh at. Now, it says, as the Course says about this love that we were basking in, says the Course in Miracles defines this love of God that we were basking in. It says, there is nothing on earth with which this love that you are basking in can be compared. There is nothing on earth with which this love that you are basking in can be compared, and nothing you have ever felt apart from God that resembles this love that you are basking in, ever so faintly. That's what was going on before the separation belief crossed our minds that we forgot to laugh at. All right. Beautiful. Now, let's see. I wonder if I can get some music going on. Let's turn this off. I like to read to music. I always have. And I finally found a source of music that I can play without getting a copyright strike. And it was music from a sleep app that I put together. It's so funny. All right. Okay. Let me get my reading back here. Okay. All right. How's everybody doing out there? Got the thing here. Beautiful. All right. Okay. So what were we talking about? What were we talking about? Oh, the boundless love, the pure love, the unconditional love from our Creator that we were basking in, lacking nothing, one with everything, complete happiness, complete fulfillment, nothing lacking. Before the tiny mad idea of separation crossed our mind, that we forgot to laugh at. Now, then it says, so and this love that we were basking in, the course says there is nothing on earth with which this love can be compared, and nothing you have ever felt apart from God that resembles this love ever so faintly. We used to live in a timeless heaven in a state of happiness so expansive that taking our greatest moment of earthly happiness and multiplying it 10,000 times only begins to hint at the state of happiness that we lived in before the belief in separation crossed our mind that we forgot to laugh at. Such a heaven as this may sound alien to us now, that's for sure. Yet this heaven that we existed in, says the Course, is our natural environment. This state of happiness, contentment, no lack, no loss, state of happiness that we existed in as one with God, completely basking in God's unconditional love for us, says that kind of heaven definitely sounds alien to us now. But the Course in Miracles says this is your natural state. This is your natural state. This is where you actually came from before you fell asleep. Before you fell asleep and dreamed the dream of separation, in which you ain't basking in endless love forever. Not at all. The exact opposite. That's what happens when you fall asleep. You know, when you fall asleep to the oneness, the no separation, the endless, the unconditional love that you're basking in from your Creator. When you fall asleep, this is what you experience, the exact opposite. All right. Now, so this unconditional love that we were basking in, that was so expansive, this state of happiness that was so expansive that taking our greatest moment of earthly happiness and multiplying it 10,000 times only begins to hint at this state of happiness. That is our natural state. That is our natural environment. This is home, is what A Course in Miracles is teaching. That's what A Course in Miracles teaches. Well, that sounds great. Oh, that's wonderful. Sounds like a big improvement of what I've been experiencing. I haven't been experiencing basking in the unconditional love of God and a happiness so expansive that, that can't even compare to the happiest moment I've ever experienced. Right? So what happened? What happened? If that's my natural state, if that's my home, what the heck happened? Because that is not how I experience my life right now. So what does A Course in Miracles teach actually happen? A Course in Miracles says our natural environment, our natural state is a state of happiness, of basking in unconditional love. How obviously that is not what we experience now. What happened? Let's hear what A Course in Miracles teaches about what happened. Well, what happened was that into eternity, this is a quote from A Course, the Course says, into eternity where all is one, there crept a tiny, insane idea at which we forgot to laugh. That's what happened. And now that we forgot to laugh at this tiny mad idea that we could be separate and on our own, and that we wanted to be, now that tiny insane idea crossed our mind, and we didn't go, oh my God, that sounds terrible. Who would want that? Haha. Instead, we didn't laugh at that tiny mad idea that we could be separate and guilty. And then we had a thought that we could go our own way. That was next. Maybe being separate would be cool. Maybe being separate would be great. That was the tiny mad idea. Being separate and alone and on your own, that could be great, right? That was the insane idea that we forgot to laugh at. It's the same as saying that we had this idea like, I'll go my own way. I'll do my own way. Like, I know you've given me everything, God, but I think I'm going to go do my own way. I'm going to go figure out how to make my own self happy. I know I had everything and was completely fulfilled with you, God, but maybe I could do a better job than you of making myself happy. That is what we did next. And then that led us to believe that we could be above other aspects of God, other children of God. And then that tiny mad idea that we forgot to laugh at even told us, you know what? Maybe you could even be above God. How about that? That was like, the ego, when we chose to separate from God, that means that what we chose was, and what we wanted was whatever's not God. If you're like, I'm leaving you, God. Well, if you're going to leave God, you got to go to what is God's opposite. And what is the opposite of God? Separateness, guilt and sin, and the devil, the ego. That's opposite of God. So if you want to do the opposite of God, well, you got to come up with an opposite deity that is a deity that is opposite to God, and a deity that is opposite to God would have to be the devil, everything anti-God, right? And so when we didn't laugh at that tiny mad idea that we could be alone on our own, separate from God, and maybe better than others, and maybe even better than God, above God, that was how all this began. That was where all trouble started. Now, even though it is impossible that we be separate from God and separate from each other and above other people, and maybe even above God, even though that is completely impossible, we forgot to laugh at that. We thought that was possible. This was all impossible. Why? Because all of reality is changelessly held within the power of God's authorship. So yeah, like, oh, it'd be a great idea. I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna be my own God. Or maybe I'll be above God, or I'll do it my own way. I mean, I know I had everything was totally complete and fulfilled when I was with God and basking in unconditional love from God that could only expand to infinity. But I thought maybe I could do it better. And, but me doing it better than God, me making happiness for myself better than God already made happiness for myself, that was impossible. That was impossible, right? Because you can't change what God has created you to be, right? You can't change what God has created as reality, and God created you having everything, being everything, lacking for nothing, created in love, in joy, unconditional love. That's the way God created you to be. And if you want to be something else, you're just trying to be something that's impossible for you to be. And so you'll always be frustrated. You'll always be unfulfilled, because you can't be happy trying to be something you weren't created to be. You can't go against and try to be something else that you were created to be and actually be happy. That's what A Course in Miracles is telling us. God created us as happy. God created us as loving. God created us as lovable. God created us as having no needs. God created us complete, having no lack, having no needs. And you only suffer if you want to try to be something that you were created to be. And that's how we came to suffer. This is a story. Of Course in Miracles is teaching us the story of how it was that we went from our natural original state of union, no lack, no need, eternal life, eternal joy, to this, what we're experiencing now. Like, oh, that happened. Of Course in Miracles is explaining that to us. And so the Course in Miracles says, so what we were trying to do, separate ourselves from God and make up our own fulfillment and happiness better than God could do for us. Even though because that was impossible to do, we withdrew into a dream, a fantasy, an illusion, a delusion, a psyop of the ego of separation. Since we could not accomplish the impossible, which is to be separate from God and be happy and fulfilled, doing it our own way, since we couldn't do that, it's impossible, we withdrew into a fantasy, a delusion, a dream of separation. The Course says we collectively dreamt an entire universe in which everyone was separate and everyone was selfishly contending with each other, and everyone was locked inside their vulnerable bodies that aged and died. All right, we withdrew into a fantasy world, where we're separated from our source and separated from each other and locked in our vulnerable, fragile physical bodies that, by the way, age and die. Wow, what a fantasy that we withdrew into just so we could be right when we were wrong about being separate and being able to be happy and fulfilled in our own way. Wow. Okay. I love it. Oh, hi, Sydney. Lovely to see you. Sydney says, lovely to see you channeling. Thank you. Thank you, Sydney, for recognizing what's going on. Hi, Demi. Demi says, let's make up for last time and laugh. Yes, absolutely. You know, Greg will tell you that one of my all-time favorite things to do is to laugh. And now I know why. That's been true all my life. But it was the Course in Miracles said that the world and the ego and the problems and the pain and the suffering it all ends in laughter, right? Only when you see that what you had been believing wasn't true does it become funny, right? And so remember, if the problem is that we forgot to laugh at this impossible idea that we could be separate from God and come up with a plan for our fulfillment better than God had already done, you know, when we laugh at that and see that was impossible, only then does that tiny insane idea get corrected, and then all the effects of that tiny mad insane idea also gets corrected with that. So all the effects of your mistaken perceptions, all the effects of your self-delusion, they disappear with your delusion, right? So I love hearing A Course in Miracles remind me of what is true. And honestly, when I hear The Course in Miracles tell me about what's true, what's natural, the only thing that's real, the real world, I always have to laugh, because the contrast between what A Course in Miracles is telling us about the real world and the world that I experience is, you know, it's like a joke. You know, humor is based on contrast. Like the bigger the contrast, the funnier the joke, right? Well, the contrast between the world that we have made, that we believe is real, and fear, and the real world the Course in Miracles tells us about is a really funny contrast. So, all right. Okay. So, the Course in Miracles teaches that the world of time and space was not created by God. As the Course says, God is not insane, yet only insanity would make a world like this. Unquote. It's a quote from the Course. The Course in Miracles also teaches that however solid this world, this insane world seems to be, it's not truly real. It's not what's really happening. It's not what's really going on. So that's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us about the world, that for starters, that God didn't create this world, okay? The world you see, where, the world comprised of bodies that are, souls that are locked in their bodies, that age and die, and they walk through the world in their separate bodies, locked away, unable to join with others because of this body, the body that ages and dies. That is a world that can only have been made by insanity, someone who does not love their creation. And that's why A Course in Miracles says that God did not create this world, the world you see, because the world you see is unloving. It's unlovable. It's not loving, right? The world we see is a world of people locked in their fragile bodies, locked away from others, unable to join, and locked inside bodies that not only prevent them from joining with others, but locked inside a body that ages and dies. Now, that's cruel. That could not have come from a loving mind or a loving creator. So the Course in Miracles is very clear from the very beginning. God did not create the world you see. God did not create the world of separate bodies that live alone and then age and die. Right? That wasn't God's idea. That was your idea. That was one of the side effects of thinking we could do it better than God. And so thinking that and trying to separate from God and doing happiness our own way, right? One of the side effects is experiencing the experience of feeling locked in your body, where you can't really join with others, where you feel lonely, and then you are locked inside a body that not only that prevents you from joining with others, but is going to be aging and dying every day. So. All right. Beautiful. Hi, Jerry. Jerry says, it sounds like it could be Lady Gaga song. Indeed. Absolutely. All right. Now, it says then, this might initially sound disheartening to hear that what happened, how we got ourselves into this mess, right? We were basking in the unconditional love of God, no need, no lack, with a unconditional love that extended to infinity, right? But then we had a tiny mad idea that crossed our mind that, maybe we'd be better off if we were separate from God and we just did everything our own way and made our own selves happier than God could. Now, when you hear what happened, it says this might initially sound disheartening, yet it is actually wonderful news, because this news means that heaven remains the only reality, and it means that this world of pain never really happened. So when we hear that God did not create this world, it's like, oh, that's, at first I'm like, God didn't create this world. That's disheartening. But really, actually, that's good news. God didn't create this world. Oh my God. Thank God. That is good news. Because now Now I know that this world of pain can't be real because God didn't create it. That's good news. That's good news, which means if the world of pain that I experience is not true, then what that means to me in practical terms is whatever pain I am experiencing in my world, that is something, that's not the only option. I could be experiencing something else, seeing as how God didn't even create that, right? It reminds me that the experience of pain and loss and aging and death and all that is something that's not the only option to experience, because that's not even the truth. That's not even real, right? So I appreciate that. That's why it's good news. All right. Oh, the story is not over yet. Exactly. Now, then it says, from an ultimate standpoint, it is laughable to think that we could truly leave God and make a world apart from God. What does it say? It's laughable. It's laughable. Like, from the ultimate perspective, like when you're seeing things correctly from the ultimate standpoint, right? When you're seeing things correctly, when you see the madness and the insanity that we believed, that we deceived ourselves into believing, and then suffered for so long. Now, which seems tragic from this standpoint, but when you get back, and have enough of a ultimate standpoint or perspective, then you're just going to laugh. It's going to be like watching your favorite comedy series where you're just laughing at their insanity. Their insanity is hilarious. It's hilarious, right? When you're looking and then watching other people's insanity, right? When you have this standpoint where it's not your insanity and you're just an observer, it's freaking hilarious. You're like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. I love this comedy series of these insane people, doing their insane things. It's so funny, right? So when you get enough distance from the lie that we have believed and suffered from for eons, it's funny, it's laughable. Then you'll be laughing at how you ever thought that you could truly leave God and make a world apart from God, like the opposite of God. Like, it's truly laughable that you were like, I'll do my own world and it'll be much better than basking in unconditional love unto infinity. I'll make myself happier. I'll make my own world where I make myself happier than God did. When you get enough perspective, that's hilarious. It's like you're watching a comedy routine. Right. But now, from our standpoint, it seems so tragic. It seems so disheartening. It seems so tragic. And so that's why we have a rational basis for feeling free from all that we have done and all that has been done to us, because we are free of it. So when you get to a certain like the 30,000 foot view, when you get to a certain standpoint, you will see that all that you used to believe and suffered from for eons is laughable. And now from this particular standpoint, you will realize that, oh, that means I have a rational basis for feeling free from all that I have done and free from all that has been done to me. Because I see now from this standpoint that I'm free of all that. I'm free from what I used to believe. I'm free from what I believed that I had done and that all that had been done to me. I'm free of all that. When you are looking at the separation mistake from a certain standpoint, right? From the perspective of Spirit's perspective, right? Wow, it's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. Greg says, how do you make a world separate from the omnipresent? Ha ha ha. That's a joke. Greg says, how, and then Jerry says, sounds Hitlerian. Greg says, now don't come over here, God. This is off limits to reality. Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to make my own world, and I'm going to make my own reality, and I'm going to make my own self happy. I can do it better than you can, God. I don't need you, God. I mean, thanks and all for the unconditional love that you created me basking in forever. But I think I can improve on that a little bit, God. So I'm going to leave you, and I'm going to make my own world where I make my own self happier than you did, God. You know why? Because I'm really secretly upset, God, that you didn't love me more than all the rest of your creations. That's what I'm really upset about. It was like the tiny mad idea that crossed my mind was maybe I could have something just for me. Maybe I could be something more than everyone else. What do you say, God? And God was like, what do you mean something more than other creations? I only have one creation. And we were like, oh, well, if you're going to be like that, God, then I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm going to dream a dream. I'm going to put my virtual reality, my virtual reality ego headset on my mind. And I am going to dream that I can have a world where I can have something more than others. I can have a little more love than others that you wouldn't give me, God. And that is the dream. Now, you may notice, like, and you could say enlightenment is when you notice, oh, that does not make me happy at all. I can't make myself happy. All this effort, all these lifetimes to make myself more happy than God did, still not happy. Oh, right. That's what enlightenment really means. Oh, I can't make myself happier than my creator already created me to be. I can't fulfill myself more than my creator already created me as fulfilled. Oh, that's laughable to think that it's laughable that I even thought that was possible, that I desired that, thought it was possible, and then proceeded to put myself to sleep and dream a dream, because you can only dream that dream of separation and specialness if you're asleep. So that means you got to put yourself to sleep. There's so many effective ways to put yourself to sleep in this world. I mean, the whole world is a dream that you dreamed after you put yourself to sleep. So, that's easy peasy here. Easy peasy. All right. And then Greg says, yeah, God, see, in my world, I am recognized and special. See, God, see? And God's like, I see that you're not happy, my child. I see that you're never satisfied, my child. How about that? All right. Beautiful. All right. So you remember where we're at is, what does A Course in Miracles teach? Okay. Now, then it says, we, however, believe this world is real, right? And so all of our efforts go towards rearranging the world's circumstances. Right? That's what we believe the world is real. The world based on we're separate and alone and on our own, and we can make our own selves happy, and we can fulfill ourselves in our own way, even though we were already created that way. And we could do it better and different than God. Says this world that was based on that belief and that intent, that desire. However, we believe that this world is real, and so all of our efforts go towards rearranging the world's circumstances. So since we believe this world is real, And we are all on our own, and it is up to us to make our own selves happy and to fulfill ourselves in our own way. Uh, Now all of our efforts go towards rearranging the world's circumstances to make us happy and fulfilled in the way that we have decided would make us happy and fulfill us. Now, all of our efforts in the world go toward that. That's what we're all doing in the world. Doing, doing whatever we think is going to make us happy. Whatever we think that us doing will make us happy. Being in complete denial that God has already created us as happy. God has already created us fulfilled, meaning needing nothing, lacking nothing. God has already given us everything that God is, all the love, all the joy, all the eternal life, all the abundance, all of it. Right? But since we believe since we believe our separation from God is real, now all of our efforts go toward finding something in the world that will complete us and will fulfill us and will make us happy according to our plans. Now, rearranging the world's circumstances to make us happy from without. All of our efforts are going now toward that. Hi, Trisha. Lovely to see you. And hi, Shahira. Hi. Blessings to you, Shahira. Thanks for being here. Thank you for all your loving support. I appreciate you. Now that we believe that the separation in the world is real, now that we believe that we can make our own selves happy and fulfill our own selves better than God could, now we chase after possessions, people, places, and things, and money, and possessions of power. Now that we think that we're separate from God, and now that we think our happiness is up to us, and now we think that we can make ourselves happy and fulfill us, now we're going to chase after possessions and money and power, specialness, and now we're going to search for that special person who will make us happy. I'm searching for that special purpose, I'm searching for that special person who will make me happy. Will you make me happy? Wow. Anybody recognize that? I'm searching for that special person or that special job or that special place that will make me happy. You will make me happy, right? Yes, sure. We search for that special person who will make us happy, and then we lavish attention on our body. Anybody recognize that? I'm going to lavish attention on my body. I'm going to lavish attention on my body's appearance. Now I lavish my attention on my body's pleasure. Now I lavish attention on my body for my body's comfort and my body's safety. Because what? Because now I am separating from God, believing that I can come up with my happiness and my fulfillment better than God. I can do it better. And now I'm going to chase after possessions, money, and power. I'm going to search for that special person who will make me happy. And I'm going to lavish attention on my body's appearance, my body's pleasure, my body's comfort, and my body's safety. Yet none of that really works to make me happy. None of that really works. None of that really works to fulfill me and make me happy and make me feel complete. None of it works. And all of my attempts to what does it say? All my chasing after possessions and money and power and searching for people who will make me happy, and all the lavish attention that I put on my body, its appearance, its pleasure, its comfort, its safety, none of that really works. It all just perpetuates the real problem, which remains unresolved. The real problem that remains unresolved. Like, I'm not separate from my source. I'm not incomplete. I'm not missing something. I am already perfect love. I don't need to search for love. I am perfect love. I am love. And as I extend that love, I experience that love. And that's what fulfills me. Right. So the real problem is the real problem is that I think that I have separated from my source and now am lacking something like love, like eternal life, like joy, like peace, like abundance. That's the source problem, the causal problem that remains unaddressed, the real problem that remains unaddressed. Yes. Sydney says, takes us off purpose until we see it as our true self. Takes us off purpose until we see it as our true self. Yes. Yeah. Until you see love as your true self, then anytime you're seeking for someone who will make you happy, then you are taking yourself off purpose. You are taking yourself off purpose. And what's your true purpose? Like you said, to experience your true self. Your true purpose is to experience your true self. And your true self never separated from source. So it never made a lack within itself. Your true self never did separate from source. And so your true self doesn't know any lack of love at all, or lack of abundance, or lack of life. Your true self never did separate. Only the ego, which is, remember, the tiny mad idea that crossed our mind that we forgot to laugh at, only that believes that you actually did separate from your source, and that you are now actually separate and lacking and alone. Right? Only your ego, the tiny mad idea you forgot to laugh at, believes that. And what the ego believes was never true. What the ego believes is a lie. It's a delusion. It's a fantasy. That you have believed in. Right. But when you look at it from a certain perspective, like from a Course in Miracles perspective, it's laughable. It's laughable when you see what we believe we did, and how we've suffered for that illusion that could never happen. When you see that you have believed what was impossible and you suffered over something that was never even possible, but you get enough distance from it, it's laughable. It's funny. And of course, in Miracles gets us to that standpoint. The Course in Miracles brings our consciousness to that 30,000 foot view, where we're looking at like what we believed, and all the efforts we made to make that illusion seem real, and all that we suffered for believing in something that was never true. Like, when you get to that Holy Spirit's perspective, the Course in Miracles perspective, it's hilarious. It's like pure comedy, right? And so that's what we're getting at. And so that's what it's telling us, that when you're seeing the suffering, when you're seeing what you believed and what you learned in the past, when you're seeing it from a high enough perspective, from the truth perspective, it's funny, and so you laugh. And you laugh at it. And when you laugh at an illusion, when you laugh at what you used to believe, and all the efforts you put in to make that delusion true, when you laugh at it, it has no more power over you because you realize it's an illusion. And now you're free from its lies. You're free from the limitations that it told you that you had. You're free from the guilt and the sin and the inadequacy that the ego told you that you have. You're free. You're free from all the limits the ego would put on you. You're free from all the limits and the guilt and the pain that false belief that you believed in told you deserved. You're free. You're free. And now you can, when you're free, you can laugh. When you're free of something, it becomes hilarious. It's not funny only when you're still imprisoned by it, which means as long as you feel that you are limited by it, imprisoned by it, it ain't funny. But when you've walked out of that prison going, no, thank you. All powers of God. You're not a God, so you don't have power to do anything. And you walk out of that prison and you look back, now it's funny. That's why I watch comedians. To me, comedians are my teachers because they have seen things from a certain standpoint at which it's hilarious what we do, which means they're seeing it from an accurate perception standpoint, and they're helping me to do the same. And so that's why that's why I love to laugh and why I really appreciate my comedian teachers. I've always seen comedians as my teachers. So they get the joke. They see the hilarity and the insanity of what we do and just take as normal. And they're like, that's not normal. That's hilarious. That's a joke. So, all right. Yes. Greg says, this world will end in laughter. That's what the Course says. How will the world end? How will the world end? It answers that question. And all the stories we hear about the ending of the world, the apocalypse, none of them are funny stories. None of them are funny at all. They're all very tragic and full of torment. But of course, a miracle says that because the world is a place of sorrows, for the world to end, then it would have to meet sorrow's opposite. And what sorrow is opposite but laughter? And so, sorrow doesn't end when you add more sorrow. Sorrow only ends when sorrow meets its opposite, which is laughter. And the world is a sorrowful idea, not a true idea, but a sorrowful idea. And when the idea of sorrow meets its opposite, which is laughter, then the sorrowful idea goes to wherever sadness goes when you start laughing. What happens to your sadness when you start laughing? Where does it go? Well, that's where sadness goes whenever you start laughing. And remember, you only laugh when you are looking at the world and what you believed from the standpoint of spirit, which is even more than a 30,000 foot view. But spirit's perspective is a standpoint that from which, when you look at what you used to believe and what all the efforts you used to make that true, are funny. They're laughable, and not in a mean kind of laugh, like, oh, what an idiot, but just like, oh, those children of God, oh my goodness, they're so adorable. You got to root for them. They're so innocent, even though they have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing, but they're so innocent and so cute. They're still so lovable and really funny. That's how you see yourselves and humanity in the world when you're looking from Spirit's standpoint, from the standpoint of what God created life to be. All right. Beautiful. All right. Okay, I'm putting up here my new website address. So when you get a chance, go check it out. And I got a new blog there, and some all my Course in Miracles classes are going to be accessible from my website. So go check my website out, become a member. My blog, my writings will be there. My course classes, my Course in Miracles readings will be there. And also a way to, a forum by which we can communicate with each other will also be accessible there from my website. So go check that out so that we can connect even more deeply with each other. Okie dokie. All right. Now, we're doing time. Amazing. Okay. The real problem is not in the world. The real problem that you're experiencing is not in the world. The problem that you are experiencing is in your mind. That's what A Course in Miracles teaches. A Course in Miracles teaches the real problem isn't in the world. It's in your mind. That's what A Course in Miracles teaches. The problem is what the Course calls the ego. That's the problem. The problem is not them, and that president, or that worldly event, or that person, or that situation. The problem is not in the world. The problem is in our minds, in something called the ego, what the Course calls the ego. Now, the Course says your problem is the ego. That's a problem. The problem isn't in the world. The problem is in the ego in your mind. That's the only real problem, is what A Course in Miracles teaches. And then the Course in Miracles teaches that the ego is nothing more than a false idea about our identity, what we are. That's what the ego is. The only one problem is not in the world. It's only in our minds. It's called the ego. And the ego, what's the ego? Is it an external devil that's trying to take possession of our minds? No, the ego is just a thought and a belief in your mind. It's a belief system in your mind that is nothing more than a false belief about our identity. That's all it is. That's all the ego is. That's the problem that exists in your mind and not in anything outside of you in the world. That's what A Course in Miracles teaches. And it says the ego is the belief. The ego is the belief. What's the ego? It's just a belief. What's the devil? It's just a belief. What's Satan? It's just a belief. What's the ego? It's just a belief. What's the darkness? It's just a belief that we are separate, a belief that we are alone. That's what the ego is. That's what the devil is. That's what Satan is. That's what the darkness is. Okay? That's what the demons are. Just a belief that we are separate, alone, and on our own. That's what it is. The ego is egocentric. And the ego's basic mode, mode of operation, the ego's basic mode is attack. Both in the form of attack thoughts and also judgment and condemnation. That's what the ego is. It's just a false belief that we're separate and alone. The ego is all about itself. It's egocentric. And the ego's basic mode is attack. Attack in the form of judgment, condemnation, and attacking behavior. And then we try to cover up our attacks with smiles. We try to cover up our ego. What's the ego about? Attack. Even though the ego has a big smile on its face sometimes. We try to cover up our attacks with smiles. We try to cover up our ego with smiles. But our ego's basic intent is still to take, to take, to take from others. The ego's basic mode is attack, and the ego's basic intent is to take from others. And what is the ego? It's just a belief, a wrong belief, a false belief in our minds. That's all it is. The ego is just a belief system in our minds, a belief system whose basic mode is attack, and whose basic intent is to take from others, but to hide it with a smile, to hide it with the appearance of love. That's what the ego is, which of Course in Miracles refers to as the real problem, which is not in the world, but it's in our minds. All right. Wow. Isn't the Course in Miracles deep? Yeah, beautiful. Shahir says, congratulations. All right. Okay. That's so beautiful. Okay. Now it says, now we try to cover up the ego's basic mode of attack. We try to cover up that the basic mode of our ego is attack, but we don't want people to know that there's a part of us that's just looking to take from others, to take their self-respect, to take their possessions, to take their status, to take their innocence for the sake of our own gain. We don't want that to be visible. We don't want that to be known, that there's a part of us that only wants to attack, to take from others their innocence, their self-respect, their possessions. And so we cover that part of our belief system, that we cover that part of our minds. And how do we cover it? With smiles, with the illusion of love, right? Because that's something we cover. We want to cover that. We want to hide, right? So if you have an ego, which of Course in Miracles says everybody who has a body, except for a very, very special few, if you have a body, you have an ego. And the ego's only intent, and the ego's basic mode is attack, and its basic intent is to take from others their possession, their self-respect, their innocence for its own gain. That is the truth about the ego, which is a belief system, a false belief system that resides in our own minds. That's the problem. That's where the problem resides. Our problem does not reside in the world. It resides in the belief system, the false belief system that's in our mind, whose only desire is to take from others their possessions, their self-respect, and their innocence. For why? For what? For our own selfish gain. So that's what the ego is. Now, remember, like what it's saying, that's not us. It's just the ego is just a false belief that we believed, that we forgot to laugh at. And so it became real to us. And then the world then seemed to reflect that belief that was only in our minds, right? And it was that had an unloving intent. That's what the ego is. And that's the real source of our problems. And that's not what we think our problems are. Our problems don't come from out there in the world. They come from within our own mind, from within the belief system that we call the ego, which is just a false belief about who and what we are. Okay, I'm going deep on that tonight. Okay, now it says, But it says, even though our ego is telling us to take other people's possessions, their self-respect, their innocence for our own gain, even when we do try to take from others for that purpose, of Course in Miracles tells us that the only thing that we really gain is a crushing burden of guilt. And then over time, our so-called sins accumulate so that we end up dragging our past misdeeds behind us like heavy chains. And deep in our unconscious, we believe that we have hopelessly defiled our original innocence and that we, quote from the Course, have made a devil of God's children, of God's child. Now, this belief, this deep, unconscious belief of our ego that we have defiled ourselves and made a devil of God's child, says this belief is hidden. This belief is the hidden cause of all of our suffering. This belief that the ego is me, that I have, like the ego has, violated the laws of love. I believe that's me. And this belief that the ego is me and that I have violated the laws of love in this way by taking from others their possessions, their self-respect, their innocence for my own gain. That's not me. That's not me. That's a false belief about myself that crossed my mind that I forgot to laugh at. That's what the ego is. Now, and it is the cause of all of our suffering, this false belief about ourselves that we have identified with that is not loving at all. It's ultimately selfish and it's ultimately evil. You know, what is evil? Evil is, well, it's a desire to take from others their innocence, their possessions, and their self-respect for my own gain. I mean, how would you define evil aside from that, right? Well, that is only a belief in my mind, and that's not me. That's not me. It's not me. I'm not my ego. It's just a false belief that I believed, that I didn't question, that I have believed, and that I have suffered because of my belief in. Now, when I allow A Course in Miracles to remind me that that is not you, it's just a belief system that you've adopted into your mind, that is not you and is not true, and you don't have to believe it, and you can think otherwise. That is what gives us hope. That is what enables us to break free from that belief system. The belief system that we call the ego, that belief system that tells you that what you really want is to take other people's possessions and their self-respect and their innocence for your own gain. That's the ego, and then that's not you. And so you don't, and which means that there's, there's a real you to be experienced. But you can't experience the real you who knows it's love and who only wants to give love and who only receives love. The way to experience that is to acknowledge that, right? And to begin identifying with that and wanting to experience that self, your true self who knows it's only love, who knows that it was created by love. It itself is only love. Nothing can change that. And nothing can change that into something that's not love, loving and lovable. That's what your true self knows. So that's what we're going on. Evil spelled backwards is live. Wow, that's deep. The beliefs, the false beliefs we have allowed to live in our minds. Exactly. That's what the ego is, right? And that is what the Course in Miracles is telling us is the cause of all of our suffering. Deep cause of all of our suffering is something that is not true, doesn't know the truth, isn't really us at all, never tells us the truth, has nothing to do with our truth, has never been who we are, but yet we're going to suffer for it. We're going to suffer for something that is not true about who and what we are, right? When you get enough distance of that, that's funny, right? But and when you haven't gotten enough distance from that, it ain't funny. It's like, whoa, wow. Okay, I'm saying no to my happiness for what? For what? For a lie that never was true? What I learned about myself was never true, and I've been suffering from that for how long? Right. That's where we're at right now. So that's why the lie that we believed in and deceived ourselves with is not funny yet. So just know that, when you get far enough off of this, when you see what's going on, when you see this from a higher perspective, from above the battleground, it's going to be funny. So you've got that to look forward to. Greg says, all my suffering comes from a false belief. Yep. Yeah. That's been my big realization recently, is like, I think I want to be fact checking my grievances, because I'm getting the sneaky feeling that I'm suffering over nothing. And of course, in Miracles is saying you may want to put your grievances, your unhappiness, your grievances to the test of truth to see if what you're suffering over is actually true. Because now you don't want to be suffering for nothing, right? So that's my realization. It's like, I don't want to be suffering for nothing. I don't want to be suffering for something that is not true, never was true, never can be true. I don't want to do that. Why would I want to suffer for nothing? Why would I want to suffer over something that's never been true, can never be true, and is not true now? I mean, I don't want to suffer for any reason, but definitely not for something that's not even true and real. That's why, of course, in Miracles says you want to take your fears, your grievances, your pains, and you want to put them to the test of truth. Of course, in Miracles, at the beginning of the course, gives you the truth test. It's a test. It's the litmus test by which to put your fears and your guilts, to see if what you're believing in that is disturbing you is actually true. It's like, oh, you can do that? Put your fears and your angers and your upsets into the truth test to see if they're actually true, to know whether it's worth suffering over or not. And you'll find that the things that you're suffering from are beliefs that you didn't put to the truth test. And so you're suffering from believing something that's not true, but you don't know it's not truth because you didn't put it to the truth test. And the truth test is something like, and there's a couple of versions of it in the early chapters of the course. The truth test is only love is real. What is not loving isn't true. Basically, that only love is true. What's not loving isn't true. And so all fear must be producing a state that doesn't exist. So I'm not quoting that perfectly, but it's basically that. It's a test of truth. Is this loving? Is it happy? And does it make me happy? Is it loving? Is it happy? And if it's not, then whatever it is you're believing can't be in accordance with reality. It must not be true. That's a test of truth. And only to the extent that we test our pains and grievances and sadnesses to the truth test, only to that extent will our perceptual errors be corrected for us and replaced with miracles of joy and peace. That's what A Course in Miracles teaches. All right. So Okay, well, we're going to stop here because it is now an hour and 30 minutes. And this is so good. Maybe I'll continue on with this next week because it's such a good overview of what A Course in Miracles teaches. It really is. So I'm going to set that goal for myself and then we'll see. But I'm going to put a little tag here. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, take it to the truth, says Shihira. That's right. Take it to the truth. Like, I see you're suffering. Did you put your perceptions and beliefs to the truth test to make sure that you're suffering for something that's true and real? Right. So that's what you want to do. You want to put your grievances, pains, sorrows, fears, worries, perceptions that are making you angry, sad, sick, tired. You want to put your perceptions to the truth test so that you can, and says, and if you'll do that, then truly your false beliefs will be corrected for you. And in your false beliefs place, there will be a miracle of peace, a miracle of joy, a miracle of whatever form you needed in that moment. That is what comes in the place of giving your false beliefs to truth to correct for you. Okay. All right. Now, for the closing meditation, I'm going to read to you one of the pieces from my book. All right. Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Greg. Greg says this was our first false interpretation I made that made me want to hide from love. That's right. That's right. And I love Greg says all my suffering comes from a false belief. That's right. Okay. I appreciate you guys so much. You guys truly help me out so much. I'm so grateful for you. When I start a class and I see you here and I feel your love and I hear your beautiful, beautiful thoughts, it makes me feel so safe and connected. And that's it. And it's the greatest gift you can give me. Thank you. Okay. So this is from my book and it's called Declaration of Independence, from the Declaration of Independence for the New Earth. Okay. And you can get this from Amazon. Let me get this. That's my website. You can get it from my website too. Isn't that funny? Okay. Let me see if I can pull this up. Of course. All right. Well, I can't. So, okay. Well, anyway, here it is right here. That's so funny. Anyway, it's called Declaration of Independence for the New Earth. So this is my latest book, and it really is about, it's like my love song to humanity, to wake up and reclaim our sovereignty as children of God, to reclaim our inheritance as children of God, and to also wake up from the fear slavery that we have voluntarily been in for a very, very, very long time. And so this is my call to humanity to wake up from our ancient fear slavery to sin and guilt and death. And also it's a call to all of the midwives for the new earth, all the midwives and protectors of the new earth. This is like calling us to join in accepting the new earth and allowing it to be born through us. That's what this book is all about. And so the piece I'm going to read to you is called A Call to Peace in a Time of War. So I want you to just close your eyes and take a breath if you can, if you're not driving heavy machinery, if you're not driving a car. So just breathe and just notice how you are feeling right now, having heard these ideas from A Course in Miracles. We have been hearing about what does A Course in Miracles teach? And even just hearing about what A Course in Miracles teaches, it's healing, it's inspiring, it's comforting. Thank you. Thank you, Spirit, for A Course in Miracles. Thank you. Thank you for all the teachers of A Course in Miracles. Thank you for all the students of A Course in Miracles. Thank you, God, for A Course in Miracles. Thank you, Spirit, for bringing through for us God's answer to our separation. All right. Okay. So this is called A Call to Peace in a Time of War. So this is a call to peace in a time of war. The Course in Miracles is a call to peace in a time of war. And A Course in Miracles is the song that peace sings back in answer. And this call to peace and this song of peace is a song of freedom that love sings to all of creation. This song of peace emanates from our collective soul and brings far memories of the abundant peace that is our divine right and the inheritance of every soul. We call to peace in dangerous times as these, for war is not what we, the people, want anymore. War is but the evil need of the shrouded few who alone profit from war's spoils. War is only what the few dark and powerful ones tricked us to want as payment for our supposed safety and freedom, and paid for by our debt to them. Celestial in its beauty and power, peace sings to us who call to it, singing, we are one, and peace takes care of us all. Let us call to peace in this time of war, and may we listen for love's sure response to all. A call to peace in a time of war. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for joining this broadcast. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you for your super chats. If that is something that you felt called to share, I appreciate that. Thank you for joining and joining with these ideas, that these ideas may be strengthened as they go out into the world, offering peace and comfort to those who need it, which is everybody. I appreciate you all so much, and I will see you next time I see you.